Hello and welcome to ABW Radio. Yeah, that's it. Done. We could just leave now, can't we? I don't think anyone wants to talk about it. We've got to talk about Liverpool 4, Arsenal 0. Happy days. No Chris again. He's run away. He's in hiding. He's actually chasing Arsene Wenger down for not starting Lacazette. He's very upset. But I do have with me the button monkey himself. He's making his. Is your first appearance on the radio this season? I can't remember, Danny.
There's only been 3, possibly 4 if you count the Charity Shields. I think it is, yes. Everyone else has died.
Yeah. So Danny is with us today. Hello, Danny. Thank you for getting up.
Luckily, I've got an achy back because I'm telling Dom, my neck has fixed itself. I thought there was someone behind me. So December 2012 hurt my neck, and it's hurt up until a week ago yesterday. And I quickly turned around and went, oh, and my neck cricked, and it's okay. But now I've got an achy back. So I woke up a quarter of an hour early, had my alarm set for 3:30. Woke up at 3:15. Thought the game was 4:30. Good job I got up early, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shame I didn't shit the bed, otherwise I'd have been ready completely.
You need to get a small Chinese woman to walk on your back. It's good for you.
Oh, rubbery.
Nice first bit of racism. And we've also got, speaking of racism, we've got our foreign friend on, Dom. Aussie Dom, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Well as can be expected after watching that. I feel like I've been violated. I need one of them little dolls where you can point to where the bad Liverpool team touched you.
Yeah. I mean, you just point at all
everywhere.
of it.
Yeah, everywhere.
That whole thing. Oh dear. So hello to everyone in the chat watching live, and hello to everyone who is listening back later on. So we start where we normally do with the lineup. Everyone knows what we're going to complain about here, or someone's going to moan about. Danny, what did you think of today's lineup before the game?
Interesting one way to look at it. Right, Wenger had the same thing when we were playing the Dom. We were just talking before. We did the 4-1-4-1, and we couldn't wait to get that out the window because he was playing, like Dom said, playing Arteta in wrong position. Then we were playing the 4-2-3-1 position, and you think, well, that's not a bad formation, but not when you're playing the people in the wrong position. Like he's had Podolski in the wrong position, he had Özil out wide left, and we're not going to go into what we did before because we all know what we did before. But this starting 11, first of all, why is Bellerin a right-footed only player who got an Opta rating of 5 today? Why is he playing? I mean, he swapped it partway through the second half. Why is he playing at left back? He's not a left back. He's not a left wing back. He can't do the fucking job. We've seen all season and last season, not all of last season, the Ox is more than capable of playing on either wing as a midfielder, a wing back, as a winger, and playing with either foot. So why would you swap them over? All you're doing is penalising Bellerin, because at one point he ran down and he had the ball with him and he had to shoot with his right foot, and then by the time he did that, it hit someone and it went out. That was just utterly pointless. Monreal, I've never liked Monreal at left back. He no longer has the pace, which is why I don't think he's playing left back or left wing back. Doesn't have the pace he used to have. We saw that 2 or 3 times today when he got absolutely turned inside out. And so I don't want to see him at left back, especially at left wing, left centre back, especially when we got the likes of Mustafi, who is built for that position. Koscielny must be thinking, I think I preferred it when I wasn't playing. He was like a headless chicken, not because anything to do with him, but he was constantly. I was putting pictures in screen grabs or taking photos with my phone of the formation, and at one point you'd have Monreal far left hand side, Holding far right hand side, a huge big gap that you could park 6 double deckers in, Koscielny in the middle. Now that's why when you had both the Liverpool wingers, who Steve kept making the point quite rightly that Liverpool have not played Mane and Salah at the same time because they won't. Because they're all about their pace and they need them to be a little bit more team-wise, but they don't have to worry about that today. And so they'd come down and then Holding would go, right, Ox, oh, fuck me, you're miles over there. You're meant to be covering at right back. What are you doing? Well, I'll try and cover at right back. Then the hole between Holding and Koscielny gets even bigger. And then Firmino or Salah or Mane or bloody Winya, in fact, bloody Lovren, he could have run through that gap. And that just kept happening over and over again. And then we could see there's massive holes in the midfield. Xhaka had a shocking game. And so Wenger goes at half-time, we're 2-0 down. Right, what should we need goals. What should we do? I know what, we'll take off Ramsey, who can score goals and get assists and runs his heart out. We'll bring on the Cock, who, as we all know, whenever someone goes for a tackle, he goes, oh no, don't, and dives out of the way. Sanchez was understandably, I suppose, not really match fit because he's been sulking all season. He had a terrible cold. Ozil, we saw Ozil, the best bit about Ozil's game is when he got a booking. That was it. Other than that, he might as well have not been on the pitch. And I was moaning in the WhatsApp group saying that Ozil, at one point, it was like he had Ozil back in I think it was the left back position, and the players were just, all the Liverpool players are passing around. He was run to that one. Oh no, run to that one. It's like that game tag. It's like playing tag with a 3-year-old waddling towards you and then waddling that way. And they're just putting it all around him. But Chris did point out that's not his job. I mean, it is his job to defend. And I said, why is he bother defending? Welbeck. Yeah. That's it. And
that's the one I wanted to get to, really. When I saw the team line up at first, I hadn't seen the formation the way it was played out, and I just read the names and I thought, oh, we're playing a back four, and Ox is going to play on the right side, Alexis on the left, and Welbeck through the middle. Obviously, we ended up with a back three and the stupid fullback situation again. Dom, starting Welbeck over Lacazette for this game, I really didn't see it. You spent all that money on a big striker. Alexis is back in the team as well, who you would imagine is a player who Lacazette is really looking forward to playing with and will probably link up really well with. Welbeck, after his last game, had a pretty poor performance in front of goal. No one doubts his effort and his work rate, but his finishing and his first touches certainly let him down recently. So can you fathom that at all? Was there any thinking behind that?
I don't agree with it, but playing devil's advocate just for the sake of it, I would assume there would maybe something to do with how Welbeck played in FA Cup final in that formation. Potentially in did he start the Community Shield as well? Was he
didn't he play in the Ozil hole behind the striker?
I think he played on the left side.
Either way, he did give Chelsea and stretch that defence quite well in the FA Cup. That's the only kind of rationale that I can think of, is that maybe Wenger looked at the Liverpool's defensive frailties and thought, oh, maybe I'll put Welbeck up there and he can, cause them similar problems and stretch them a bit and give Ozil and Alexis more space. I don't know. That's all I can think of, but I don't agree with it. But that's the only rational, logical part of me that can even construct any kind of reasoning behind it.
Yeah, the other big one before the game got started, obviously people talking about the lineup, was Kolasinac, I always say that wrong, not being selected. Oxlade-Chamberlain still being in the team when, according to every report, he's turned down a contract offer and looks like he's going to leave the club. I think most people didn't even think he'd be in the squad today, let alone starting. So again, it forced us to play, or didn't force us to, but Arsene chose to put Oxlade-Chamberlain as right wing back, which is a position he hasn't done particularly well in, and Hector Bellerin as left wing back, which negates a lot of his game. And Kolasinac is sat there on a bench not playing. So just really weird decisions all round. And obviously some of those I think directly led to the goals. Quickly on the Liverpool side of things, the fact that Karius was in goal for them today and we didn't have a shot on target is absolutely disgraceful.
I'd never even heard of him.
I mean, if people had never seen him play before, you saw a couple of times today where he got closed down by Welbeck and nearly gave the ball away. I think it was 2 or 3 times in the game. He's not the most assured keeper in the world, and the one thing Liverpool are bad at is defending. We all know they are good going forwards. Everyone knew that before the game, but their defence is there to be exploited. So just weird decisions all round.
Do you want some stats from the game?
Yeah, go for it, Danny.
Possession, 49% to them, 51% to us. I mean, I don't know, did they have Stevie Wonder? Is it Stevie Wonder? I always get those two mixed up. The one who can't see properly, he's 51% to us. That's unbelievable. Number of shots, 18 for them, 8 for us. On target, 10 for them, none for us. Average Opta rate in them, 7.6, us, 6. Which is absolutely unbelievable. Corners 4-3, tackles 22 to them, 12 for us. Dispossessions 11 for them, 15 for us. Most of which I think were Bellerin. Madness.
Yeah, just everything about today was just so disappointing to watch. Getting into the game, I guess we could just jump straight into the first goal. Really, the game started okay. I thought we looked a little bit tentative, but you knew Liverpool were going to come out quick and fast, and that's what they do when they try and get an early goal, especially at home, and they press really high and try and win possession high up the pitch. It's just Klopp's way of playing. But that goal, Dom, do you want to talk us through it? Because I've seen obviously people digging out Ramsey there's the shot of him. I don't know if he's talking to Arsene Wenger or whoever it is on the sideline, but he's got his back completely to play, not paying attention, is out of position. Xhaka's out of position. The defence is nowhere to be seen, and absolutely no one picks up Firmino, who's got, easiest header in the world. Yeah, I don't know, just your thoughts on that first goal.
From front to back, the mistakes involved in that goal were just so typical of how we've been in the last couple of weeks. What confuses me is that we had some really good defensive stability, I guess, towards the end of last season with the back three, and the midfield looked good. It looked sort of steady. It looked like it could, I mean, in the FA Cup final, Ramsey and Xhaka were able to dominate Kante and was it Matic? Did he play?
Yeah, Matic, yeah.
And I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. And yet, for some reason, these games always go the same way, where I don't understand the direction from the manager. I don't understand the man management from the players. I mean, surely with someone with Ozil and Ramsey's experience, and Xhaka was a captain at Gladbach, you would think that one of the three would say, hey guys, Liverpool are all over us in midfield at the moment. Let's tuck in. Let's just sort of weather the storm a little bit. Let's get some control back in midfield. And yet, time and time again, Ramsey and Ozil were so far up the pitch that there were huge holes in the middle of the field that as soon as the ball got turned over, Liverpool just walked through our midfield. And that happened in the back four last season, and it's happening again in a back three. And that's what's really worrying me, is that it doesn't seem to matter what formation we play or what personnel are out there, because we conceded another 2 goals once Ramsey went off. And I am a Ramsey fan, but don't get me wrong, he was woeful today. I mean, Ozil and Ramsey in midfield were absolutely shocking. To not be able to put any pressure on the Liverpool backline that is not great. Everybody knows it's not great. They've conceded goals against lesser teams than us, and we caused them no problems whatsoever for the whole game. So the lead up to that first goal, I think, was just symptomatic of exactly what the problems are from front to back with our team when we're not playing together. And that is that players just seem to not really understand what their role is. I think the reason the back three worked early is because it was new for everybody. So everyone was constantly worried about where they were in their positioning. And then after they play it for a while, everybody gets comfortable and starts running around the pitch all over the place again. So, yeah, absolutely. Ramsey and Ozil were just left the midfield completely open. That wasn't the first time that Liverpool went forward easily. And then the back three, there was a huge gap in between the centre-backs that Firmino just kind of waltzed into and headed the goal in. So, you can point at 3 or 4 different mistakes for that goal, and you shouldn't be able to. You really should be able to single out a single moment, but it was kind of like a chain reaction of mistake after mistake.
Yeah, I mean, we had a similar thing with the Stoke game where a lot of people were on Xhaka's back for the poor pass and then pushing back to get the ball. Again, he was missing in midfield today a lot as well. I can't really think of a player who had a particularly good game, to be honest. But yeah, with this, I don't know what Ramsey is doing. And the fact that when he does turn around and see the play, he's jogging, he's not running back. And he spoke this week about how he likes this formation because it gives him that freedom to get forward. And I don't understand someone who can play at the level he does for Wales and the performances you've seen him put in for Arsenal when he's on form. How he has those lapses. Is it him or is it the coaching? For me at this point, it's obviously coaching is a serious problem, but I do think Ramsey perhaps does have a little bit of a tendency to switch off. But Xhaka was nowhere to be seen. Ozil tracks for a minute and then just completely ignores Firmino. Koscielny and Holding have got their positioning completely wrong, and Czech has got no chance for the goal. Danny, speaking of Rob Holding, he had a particularly poor game today. I felt really sorry for him today. He's the one player I will stick up for a little bit. Simply because of his age and his inexperience at this level. He was absolutely hung out to dry today. If you're playing a back three against a forward three, and they're all extremely quick, and you've got Sane, you've got Firmino, and Salah, who's obviously rapid, you're going to need protection because those spaces in behind your wing backs, they're going to try and exploit that. And they did that to Rob Holding all day today. And Sadio Mane, since he's been at Liverpool, has been outstanding. Oxlade-Chamberlain didn't look like he was remotely interested in being on the pitch today. Even if he was committed to Arsenal, ignoring all this contract stuff, what logic is there in putting a player who clearly doesn't know how to defend properly or play that position properly next to a really, really young centre-back who doesn't have the pace to deal with Mane? And then you see what happens for the second goal, where he just turns him inside out, and it's a brilliant finish from Mane, but he's got so much space and he's one-on-one with Holding. There's just no excuse for that, is there?
No, and I was thinking a couple of times at the beginning of the first half, I felt a bit sorry for the Ox because it's not the position he wants to play in, but we can't all play in the positions that you want to. And then a couple of times the ball would come out from Czech to Koscielny, Koscielny would give over to Holding, and then Holding would go, right, what am I going to do? Back into the middle to Ramsey or Xhaka. And I think that happened twice, and you could see out the corner of the camera, the Ox was going like this. And I thought, oh, well, maybe give the Ox the ball. Maybe that's the problem. And then later on in the game, Holding gave the ball to the Ox. The Ox took 2 steps, give it back to Holding. And Holding must be thinking, well, surely that's the whole point of the game. I give it to you, you fuck off down the wing, run down, cross it to someone and score. But no, hold it out. But the Ox didn't want to know. That is one of the worst games I've seen the Ox play in such a long time. He's obviously got something else in his mind, whether it's a move to Chelsea or whether Liverpool are in for him or whichever one it is he's going to be going to. But there's just so much wrong in so many positions and so many people in that formation. They must. I often wonder whether the players see the team sheet. I don't know if that like you see on TV. Or the team sheet goes up and they look at it and go, "Oh, has he got his left and right mixed up, back to front?" Or Welbeck? Why is Welbeck? No, surely it's got to be that Sanchez is playing that back front and Welbeck is going to be playing in the next to Ozil. But it wasn't. It was just, and then some of the players, I mean, Czech must be thinking, what the hell have I come to? I could have had my choice of virtually any club in the world, and I've come here, and we've now let in 8 goals in our first 3 games, and we only barely beat Leicester, who aren't really a very good team at the moment. And then Stoke beat us, and we thought, oh, this is just going to be a blip, but it's not going to be a blip. This is going to continue because I mean, like bringing Koch on, and then Wenger waits to the 60th minute, which will probably come to later, and then he makes those 2 substitutions. And then how many times did even the cameraman pan through, and you can see Mustafi sat on the bench going, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know. Steve says it's because Stats DNA, Arsenal bought Stats DNA, and that's how we bought Mustafi, Perez, and Gabriel. And Wenger doesn't want any of them. That's why Wenger's not playing them. That's why after I think Mustafi had a pretty good first season for us. He's a solid defender. I like him. And he's just dropped him. Doesn't want to know. I mean, the fact that we could loan him out to Inter Milan when we spent 35 million on him, I don't know who's playing at what, but we're never going to get answers, are we? It's not the Arsenal or the Arsenal way for us ever to get any kind of clarification or answers on anything, because it's none of our business. We just have to sit here and put up with this shit week in, week out, and it's not going to get any better.
I'm sure the boys will cover that on the pod coming
hopefully,
up.
Yeah.
About the whole, behind the scenes issues with the club right now, as far as, rifts between Wenger and Gazidis and boards and whatnot. But I mean, as far as, us talking about the game, it shouldn't matter, should it? Like, I mean, that team on paper, looking at those individuals on paper, or looking at what we had to choose from on paper against that Liverpool side, there's no reason that you can give me about behind the scenes stuff and Wenger having arguments with people that we have 0 shots on target against that team. I mean, that's the biggest confusing thing. You can leave all the other political shit aside, but when it's game day and the players are out on the pitch, why is it that this happens time and time again, regardless of formation, regardless of the players, regardless of anything? And I think that it says a lot. Like I said it in our little chat group, that I'm not even angry. I expect it now, and I'm not the person that's going to be, jumping
You're not
up
a
and down,
doom-monger,
swearing Wenger out, or I told you so at all. I'm kind of just resigned to the fact that this is where we're at right now. I think that a lot of the fan base and the manager, and even myself included, have overrated a lot of our players. And I think the fact is that we're just seeing that a lot of them just aren't good enough. And now we're in a situation where our best players won't re-sign, the ones that we do want. And the ones that we don't want, we can't get rid of because we overpaid them because we thought they were better than what they are. And no clubs are going to want to pay their wages. And the clubs that can pay their wages don't want them because they're not good enough. Gary Neville said something really interesting in the commentary.
He had quite a few really interesting things to say, didn't he?
No, but one thing that he said that I kind of thought, like it wasn't an analysis, anything. All he said was, you could put this whole Arsenal team up on the transfer window right now, and none of them would be, or hardly any of them would be, would go to a club better than Arsenal. And I think that is absolutely spot on, isn't it? Alexis is probably the only player in that team that would end up going to a better team than Arsenal right now. And I think that says a lot. You know, you look around at the other teams in the top four, if all of their players were up for transfer right now, you know that a lot of them would be going to bigger teams and bigger paychecks and stuff. And I think that was something that I kind of stopped and thought, yeah, we actually do think a lot more of our players than perhaps we should. But again, I've seen that same personnel play really good football, but every single time we go to an away team that puts us under pressure and that can play any kind of decent football, and this counts, I mean, Everton last season, I remember the Everton and Man City games back to back, we just absolutely crumbled under pressure. So we're not a team that is difficult to play against, regardless of formation, regardless of the players that we pick, because all you need to do is put us under some pressure and we'll crumble. That's it. That is the kind of that is the crux of it. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Personally, I think it's just to get a better coach. I think it's just to have a system in place where you shouldn't see such drastic changes in performance. The teams that do well, I mean, you can point, I know that it's blasphemy, point to Tottenham and Chelsea last season, who were the most consistent teams. They went out there and they played the same thing every single week. Yes, you're going to come across the odd game here and there where you get frustrated and the other team sneaks a goal and you end up drawing or something, but you don't get those performances. And that is quite a common thing for us to see now.
But I think when you watch those teams, they've got clearly defined roles and they know what they're doing, which is obviously what you're talking about. And you look at Liverpool today, their big problem obviously this season will be their defence, because they don't have particularly good defenders. And I don't think Klopp is the best coach when it comes to teaching, getting his team to be defensive. That's not what he's about. But going forwards, their midfield and their front three, they know when to close the space. They know exactly where their teammates going to be, what overlapping runs they're going to make, what passes they can make for them. They've all got clear defined roles, and I don't think the Arsenal midfield and the forward line, in particular when we play this three at the back, really know what they're doing or what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, you're playing Mesut Ozil, who is an out-and-out number 10, as Danny calls it the two creative players behind the striker, and I get that, but they're essentially inside forwards in that formation. That's not his position at all, and he gets kind of lost in the middle and muddled out. And that's not me defending him in any way either, because I thought he was dreadful today, and him throwing his arms about in the air and complaining about other players on the pitch. I think every player on that pitch should look at themselves first before moaning about anyone else's performance. But I do think it comes down to coaching. But simple things today, like if you're going to Liverpool, they're going to play three in the middle. Xhaka and Ramsey are going to be outnumbered. They're going to press high. So you might have to sacrifice a little bit of the way you play and put an extra man in midfield. Now, at the very start of the game, we were very defensive and it was five at the back. It wasn't three. Our wing backs were pushed right back and we were a flat back five, and Ozil was tucking in a bit. And I thought, okay, maybe he's told them to sit deep a little bit and sort of weather it for 20, 30 minutes, but it just didn't work. They just didn't know what they were doing and passing players on. There was not enough communication. There's no leaders there. And then you go a goal down, you look to the rest of the players on the pitch, no one knows what to do. You look to your manager and he doesn't tell you what to do. He doesn't change anything. He doesn't affect the game in any way. It's just it's so frustrating. Last year, I was really angry and complaining a lot. And this season, I don't think I've got the energy to. I can't be bothered being angry anymore, because it's like Dom said, I just expect it to happen now. It's so obvious.
This magical quote from our other Jeff. He's put multiple seasons, multiple players, multiple formations, one common denominator. Our problems are systematic. And then he's also put that he's now looking for an island in the Bahamas because he's had enough. He said, he said, I'd rather go somewhere where I can't get the football. Just saw a place for sale to go to the Maldives. So I think he's leaving. He's leaving you, Dom.
Oh, well.
Will you go with him?
Probably. I need to go somewhere where there's no internet, so I can't check football scores. I mean, I look. There is twofold here. I mean, I am pointing at the manager and asking for a new manager. I don't think he should have gotten another 2-year contract. I think winning the FA Cup would have been great for him to exit stage left and to bring someone else in and to give them a go. But the problem was, he would have been leaving the club in such a state with Ozil and Sanchez contracts running down and all of these. I mean, I don't think cash in the bank is that much of an issue when it comes to buying new players, but we cannot afford to bring anybody in that's decent, that's going to demand a higher wage purely because we can't shift the deadwood, so to speak, and create an opening with the wages. And this has dragged on so long, and it's the reason that we've missed out on all of these, players that would have improved the squad. But at this point, after watching what I just watched, I don't even care. I don't even care about transfers. I'm not looking at the transfer window as a savior. I'm not thinking, oh, well, if we got Seri and Lamar and, if Alexis extended and we did all the business we need to, that it would be okay. I don't think it would make any difference whatsoever because the players seem to be just running around out there like headless chickens. Now, I agree the manager shouldn't be there, and we should have someone that's got that structured technical side to their coaching. And you look around at the coaches that are doing well right now and that have done well over the last couple of seasons, and they demand certain performances from their players. And I don't think that we see that from our players at all. And I don't think we see that from our coach. But at the same time, I would have thought that a World Cup winner and a player that's played at Real Madrid and a player that has captained Wales before and has played 300 times for Arsenal and a player from the Bundesliga who was captain at 22 or whatever he was, the three of them may be able to scratch their heads together and figure it out a little bit without needing to have their hand held. Like I would have thought. People talk about, oh, we need leaders on the pitch. Well, I agree. I completely agree. But I would have thought that they should be there already. I mean, that's what's really confused me watching the game. You would think, even just as a fan shouting from the sideline saying, hey, do you guys want to bundle in a little bit and keep the midfield tight and stop getting ran through? Because it's happening again and again and again, and you guys don't seem to be doing anything about it. And I wouldn't have thought the manager needs to tell you to stop wandering off, but apparently he does. But the other issue is that he won't, and this is what's really confusing me. And it's why that I don't think anything's going to change, regardless of
I agree.
Or coaching or anything. Is why Arsene Wenger's there, coaching the way that he coaches with his football philosophy. We are going to see this every second or third week. We're just going to be a really inconsistent team.
Yeah, I think part of that, the players lacking there. Oh, hello, Sean. everyone in the chat, say hello to Sean. Sean, you're famous. You're on the internet.
John is saying hello. And she's putting her necklace on for her because she's fucking useless.
I think part of that comes down to the culture at the club and the atmosphere and the culture. Sort of they're mollycoddled, the players to an extent. And you can only assume that when they're at their other clubs or when they're on international duty, they're coached differently and it's a different atmosphere. So I think that definitely does, that leads into it. But no, you're right, Dom. You still expect more from them as players on the pitch. Not taking blame away from Arsene because, he picked that team today. And that definitely didn't help us. But the attitude of the players was awful as well. Well, it was 2-0 at half-time. Let's be honest, it could have been probably 5 or 6. Henderson blazed 2 over. I think Salah had a really good chance before Liverpool had scored as well. That Cech did the right thing, got down to it, but Salah should have scored really. So we get to half time. Ramsey's taken off. Coquelin is brought on. I kind of got it because Ramsey was having an atrocious game.
But shouldn't he be allowed to play through it? Wouldn't you want that from him?
Yes and no. I think there's sometimes at a point where you have to take a player off. There's other players he could have taken off. Don't get me wrong. But it's this weird conundrum because at first I was like, well, why not take off Ozil because he's done nothing. But then you have the argument of, well, Ozil can make you a goal.
So can Ramsey.
You have the counter argument that Ramsey can score you a goal. So it's a bit of.
But Welbeck can do neither. So get Welbeck off
Well,
and move Ramsey up next to Ozil.
Is even bringing Coquelin on to shore up the midfield. He was doing the exact same stuff that Ramsey was.
Same mistakes.
I mean, people are going to be going nuts in the chat box saying, "Let's sell Ramsey. He was useless." But Coquelin was in the exact same positions, making the exact same runs, holding the exact same spots that what Ramsey was, and that's what I don't understand. Is surely the manager can tap Ramsey on the shoulder and just be like, "What the are you doing?" Surely are you seeing what I'm seeing out there? Maybe you could sit next to Xhaka for a little while and stop pissing off up the pitch.
Yeah.
And then Coquelin comes out and does the exact same thing. That's what confused me. Is it's not like he brought on a player to change what they were doing, because the player that he brought on, regardless of personnel, the player that he brought on did the exact same thing.
Well, he switched to the back four then, didn't he? Going into the second half, which I can see makes sense. You actually get a player next to Rob Holding then. Bellerin gets played on the correct side of the pitch. Monreal goes at left back. It's 4 against their front three rather than the 3-on-3, which I thought was just stupid from the start. Which is why when I originally saw the list of players for the first 11 today, I thought, oh, it is going to be a back four. The Ox stayed on, which is another player who could have come off quite easily because he was having a dreadful game and really didn't look interested. So, Arsene attempted a change. I think it was all a little bit too late, to be honest. We started okay in the second half. We actually saw Ozil do something. He flied in for a tackle and then got booked.
Did you see the way that he slid in? It's like the Matrix. He slid in on the tackle and he's going along on his other elbow. He's going along on his elbow like that as he's sliding along the floor. I'm thinking, am I living? Is my whole everything? Am I in a dream? Because how can you do that? It's like, see you later, slide across there on his elbow. No.
Yeah. So at last some commitment, but again, the way he did it was all stupid and the attitude about it was all wrong. And then we get the third goal, which
I've got that now on the telly. It's unbelievable. I've got it paused.
So we get a corner. We've had a tiny bit of pressure in the second half. I wasn't optimistic at this point. I was still thinking, if we get a goal and maybe play better in the second half, at least we've done something. We've responded a little bit. But then we can see just the stupidest goal ever. Was it just Bellerin on the halfway line, Danny?
Yeah, there as the corner came in, one of their players jumped up, headed it. It went just between the edge of the box and the halfway line, bounced just in front of Bellerin, and Bellerin thought, as a player's running towards him, I think Bellerin thought, oh, right, I've got this. Let's rewind again, header out, comes to Bellerin. Bellerin goes, right, I'll trap it with my right foot. Oh, dear. And then he goes for it again, falls over, arse over to it, starts running back, and then Salah goes, see ya, vroom, vroom, me, as the speedy road runner.
Just, why have we only got one man on the halfway line? Okay, I know we're 2-0 down, we're chasing the game a little bit, but it's the start, we're 10 minutes into the second half.
57th minute.
Yeah, it's, have a bit of common sense.
But this is exactly what I'm saying about the on-field game management. There's players out there that have played World Cup football, that have played under different coaches, that have played in all over the place, and yet
one back-to-back Copa Americas.
Not one of them has the sense to take control of what's going on. No one.
Are they allowed to, though? Do you think they're told, you get out there and you do exactly what I'm telling you? Because you look at Klopp. Klopp's winning 2-0. He's standing on the touchline and he's shouting and screaming, encouraging his players. And Wenger is sat there with something in his mouth, picking his teeth like an old Wild Western.
I just want to say something on that, because there are a few people who will say, oh, the manager on the sideline shouting, blah, 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 passion, it's a load of bollocks.
I love
That's not what Klopp's doing. Klopp's telling players where to go and what positions they should be in, and saying you're 5 yards out of the wrong spot. You should be, a couple of yards back here. You should tuck in a little bit to the left. We've got a space there that we should be filling. Not every manager does that. Fair enough, because they do their tactics before the game and at half time. But to see no response from the manager, and the bench looked awful. Like just
Sanchez when he came off.
The attitude of the bench. You got Vic Akers and Steve Volder just looking at each other, trying to not look at Wenger. I love Steve Bold for all his playing days, but
I
grow a
love Vic as
backbone.
well. Vic's
Have,
great.
have a backbone. Speak up to him.
Yeah.
If you're clearly not doing anything there, because there is no way Steve Bold is coaching that defence.
Well,
Not a chance.
Steve wants to know where's Lehman. I thought Lehman was part of it. Why isn't Lehman there? He'll be out there shouting at people.
Yeah, I got no idea. I just don't think they're just clearly not allowed to, which annoys me more because then you're an ex-pro who's now earning extra money and not doing anything about the club being a complete and utter fucking shambles. Yeah. So anyway, that goal, just ignoring the fact that we've only got one man on the halfway line, which is the stupidest thing ever. Like one of the basics of football when you're defending, don't let the ball bounce. Just even if Bellerin, if you're just going to boot it and they get a goal kick, have some common sense. You know you're playing against really, really fast players, so he gambles and lets Salah get the ball. Just unbelievable. And what's even worse is that Salah's run through. He runs the whole way. Good finish. Czech does the best he can. To be fair, I thought as it's Salah, he was probably going to miss. His finishing is a bit suspect at times, but it's not even that. You see, there's more Liverpool players running up past our defenders. They're getting forward quicker than we're getting back. They've reacted to it quicker. Everything today, every 50-50 ball, every challenge, every pass, they're bang on them, and they actually want to do something.
It's like in the first or second goal, it was 5 of our players v 2 of theirs, and they still turned us inside out and did us. For the third goal, it was 3 of their players v 5 of ours. And now I'm looking at the screen for the Sturridge goal. There's 4 of our players, and they've got 1 of theirs in the middle and 1 out wide each side. And Czech is going, oh my god.
Yeah, everything today, just the commitment, the attitude was just awful.
It's the same thing every time, though.
And the thing I find more shocking. Sorry, Dom.
No, you go.
They played Champions League.
3 days ago.
So 3 days ago.
Yeah.
They were obviously ahead from the first leg, but they still had to go out and get a result. And they went out. They put a good side out. They played a tough game. People may not rate Hoffenheim, but they were very, very good last year in the Bundesliga. They're one of the best teams, especially at home.
How was Serge Gnabry for them?
And they go out, they put that performance in, and then they look like they're twice as fit as us playing today. We've had a whole week off. We've had all week to prepare for this, and they've had that extra game in there. It's just shocking. Moving on from 3-0, if we really have to. Dom, do you want to talk about the? Do you remember we signed that bloke for like 50 million quid, the striker we've been wanting for years? He came on the 62nd minute along with Olivier Giroud as well, who also could have started the game. What did you make of that?
Pointless, really, wasn't it? The Leicester game was interesting. It was an interesting game. We were creating chances. The defending was still woeful, but we created chances. The Stoke game, the defending was awful, but we created a lot of chances. We did have a lot of chances on goal. And then fast forward to a week later, and you're putting your most prolific goal scorers on the bench. You're not really doing anything about the defense. You're still picking weird positions. So it's not really a surprise that the defense was still awful and we didn't actually create any chances because our best goal scorers were on the bench for what reason we don't really know. That fourth goal was a carbon copy of the first, I think, where if you pause and freeze frame that, Ozil and Coquelin as well were absolutely nowhere. There was a huge hole in the midfield. And look, I understand maybe that we're pushing for a goal, but at that point, what's the point? We're more likely to be conceding goals than we are scoring if you're going to keep doing what we were doing because we've been conceding and they were carving us open all game. So Coquelin and Ozil, again, are way up where they shouldn't be, leaves a big hole in midfield. They walk through the midfield. They get into a dangerous position. The defenders are nowhere. Header, goal, easy. And that's the big concern, I think, is just how easy it is to walk through our midfield. And you would have thought playing a back three is supposed to tighten that up. And it did last year. This is the confusing thing for me, is that the end of last year, we lost to Spurs. And then other than that, we won every single game with a back three and we looked solid. Now, all of a sudden, playing the same formation, we are absolutely all over the place. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why the players have just completely forgotten what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to be. And I don't see it changing anytime soon, because this is, well, I think it was now 9 years since we've won our first 2 games in a row. That says everything, doesn't it? It says that we never go into the season fully prepared. We never go into the season with all of our business done and players in their set positions and a set team to go out with. Again, we've had a different first 11 every game so far. Some of that to do with, Koscielny's suspension, obviously, but a lot of it to do with the fact that we're trying to crowbar Oxlade-Chamberlain into a team that he doesn't deserve to be in. And then you're dropping someone like the Snatch, who has done nothing wrong to be dropped. So that's why I'm not surprised. I mean, a smart, logical person would look at what's going on and go, yeah, that's right. That's about right. Why would you expect that we're going to be winning games of football doing that?
Because our pre-seasons are no longer about like when Chris goes and does his pre-seasons with the Barbican Pirates. He goes right, we're trying formations. We're going to make sure everyone is fit. We're going to make sure everybody fits in together. A bit of team bonding, bit of everything. Chris doesn't go, come on lads, we're fucking off to China to do a multi-million-pound game. He would if he could, but he doesn't, and that's what we do.
Everyone does that now.
Yeah, everybody does do it, but we do it too much.
No. Everyone does it. Liverpool had the same travel schedule as us, and so does everybody else. And yet, Man United have won 3 in a row and look fantastic. And
plus, Wenger gives players too much time off. It's nothing to do with
the preseason. It's nothing to do.
I think it is.
Well, then why are the other clubs able to not go to shit like we do?
Yeah, because Chelsea and United had a longer preseason. They were still in America when we'd already come back.
Yeah,
but this happened to Chelsea a couple of years ago, didn't it? They went and did more games in America, and then they had a bad start to the season. But if you want to go and do the money tours around the world, it's lovely, nice to do that. But make sure that your last 2 or 3 games are going to be where you're playing 3 or 4 days apart, not back-to-back games like we do in the Emirates Cup, which is only there to make money. And then do the games a few days apart. Play Barnet, play Leyton Orient, go and play games, teams like that, where you get some team bonding in, where everybody's going to get a game. And don't say to the likes of every summer, Sanchez, Ozil, Koscielny, Giroud, all these people go, oh, you get 2 or 3 extra weeks off. No, fuck it. You're on an absolute fortune. You get a month off. If you decide to go and play for your country in international duty, that's your summer gone. And then they may be a little bit tired, but I want you back, and I want you training with the team, and I want a bit of team formation, a bit of team solidarity, and everybody gelling. So when the first game of the season, we go out there and we are ready to go, and that just doesn't happen anymore. And yeah, you are right. Other clubs do manage to do it, but we just don't seem to be able to do it. And I think that is one of the major problems.
Going into the season, the transfer window is the same repetitive thing every single year, where starts well, we get a player in early. I remember Podolski and Cazorla came in early, and then nothing. We got Czech done early, and then nothing. And then we got Sanchez done early, and then nothing.
Today's game,
single year, it looks good at the start, and then all of a sudden, it just completely goes to water. And we are always that team that is running around scrambling to fix things as the season's already start. And Arsene Wenger wants to talk about, the transfer window should be shut before the season starts. Well,
he'd be fucked.
Pretend that it is. I mean, we can talk about, teams don't want to let players go, et cetera, et cetera. I know we don't want to get into too much about the transfers, but what makes me really kind of just fed up with the whole thing is that he comes out and says that, well, the Lamar deal's dead because they've sold too many players. Well, you wanted him in June. You sat there and watched them sell player after player after player. If you really wanted him badly enough, you would have made sure that you did what it took to get it done to get him into your team. Not wait to save a few million quid and then go, oh, well, we can't buy him anymore because they've sold too many. Well, it just really, I don't know why. I would love a journalist just to ask him that question. Well, you know that you wanted him. Why didn't you get him earlier before they sold everybody else?
He wouldn't answer it. He just ban you from being at any more press conferences. Steve made a good point in another one of Steve's voice messages. He's legendary for them. He does his own podcast every day of the individual voice messages, and one of them where said he felt like today's game was just like the Man United 8-2 game, where Wenger is trying to make a point, and we're going to be scrambling around the transfer market. So expect us to go and play over the odds for players he's never seen play that are not going to fit into the team. That a year later are going to be sat on the bench and we'll be going, "There's another 6 players we've got to get rid of."
I don't think we can. I honestly don't think. The reason we haven't given Ozil a new deal and he hasn't signed yet is because we don't know how much we can pay him. Because we've got so many players on huge wages that we can't get off the wage bill. Kieran Gibbs, everyone wants to sort of talk about the Gibbs thing about how he might be ending up going to Watford and stuff, and the quoted price was between 5 and 7 million, and everyone's jumping up and down like, why do we always get screwed on transfer fees? Well, it's because one, he's probably not as good as we think that he is. Secondly, no big team that can afford to pay 80 grand a week for him is going to come in for him. So a Watford comes along and says, look, we'd give you 15 million for him if he was on 30 or 40 grand a week. But the guy's on 80 grand a week. So he's not going to leave and come to us and take a huge big pay cut. Why would you? Like, it's the same with Lucas Perez. It's the reason he hasn't moved is because these wages are through the roof. El Neni was exactly the same. Leicester came in for El Neni and he's like, no, I think I'll stay here. Thanks. There's too many complacent players at the club. Theo Walcott's another one. Theo Walcott isn't getting a sniff in this team if everyone's fit. And yet he will happily earn his 140k a week rather than go and play at Everton for 70. And I don't blame him. I think it's the club's fault for overplaying average players. We can't get them off the wage bill, which means we can't bring players in. I don't even think we can panic buy at the moment. I really don't. And I think that it's the other reason that Ozil hasn't signed a contract is because we're scratching our heads going, well, after the transfer window's over, let's see what wages we've actually got available to pay. Because whether we like it or not, there is a wage cap that the Premier League, will, with the financial fair play. And yes, other clubs don't seem to give a shit about it, but for whatever reason, we do. And
no, I heard that they do give a shit about it, but the likes of PSG, Man City, Chelsea, Man United, it's only going to start to affect them in 2 years' time. Someone was explaining it on this bloke who he was on Talk Sport midweek, and he's wrote a book about the billionaires in football and how that works. I'm trying to see if I can get him on for a podcast to talk about his book, but he was saying they will have to long-term pay the penalty, but short-term they're not bothered about it.
The wage thing for the Premier League is a separate thing from FFP. There's a Premier League wage cap. And that's to do
isn't
with,
it? Is it on your
you can
revenue?
only increase it by 7 million, I think it is a year.
Yeah.
Your wage bill, unless you can show a significant increase in your commercial revenue.
Yeah.
It's something like that. I can't remember the exact figures, but there is a Premier League wage cap that you have to adhere to. There's not a maximum.
So you've got Debussy sitting there. We want to know the reason Debussy's just chilling out. Because he's on huge wages. And any other club that wants him is going to pay him half.
75 grand he's on.
And then you've got Perez and Gibbs that are in exactly the same boat. And I think it's the reason that he may be willing to sell Mustafi and Oxlade-Chamberlain is purely because the wage issue. And they're players that teams actually want. Whereas all the other players, the teams that want them can't afford to pay them the wages. And we've seen it before where a team comes out and says, oh, look, we'd love this player, but we can't afford to pay those wages.
Isn't that why
we're just going to go, no, I'm not going there.
With the Gibbs move, we wanted 10 million, but then they can't agree wages with him. So that's why it looks like, from what I've read, that they'll now take 5 million and they'll use part of that other 5 million to pay his wages. I mean, that seems the kind of deal they have to do.
That we have now. And then you have, for example, I don't know enough about this stuff, but I just wish the club was more ruthless with players like Debussy, who's going into his final year, where they just cancel his contract, pay him out whatever we owe him, and just say, go for free. We need the wage space. We don't need a transfer fee from you.
They can do that. It's like with Gibbs. If he goes to Watford, they could do a deal where they say to Watford, right, we'll give him to you half the price. Get him, and we'll just say to Gibbs that at the end of your contract, you're gone. You're not getting another deal at Arsenal. Watford want you now. We will fill the wages that Watford won't pay. So let's say, I don't know, say Watford offered him 40 grand a week and he's on 80 at Arsenal. We'll pay the extra 40 that Watford aren't willing to pay for a year until his contract would effectively be up at Arsenal, and then he's Watford's player, essentially. But he just goes that year earlier. There's ways to do it, and you can, pay up players and that kind of thing. But the club aren't just interested in it. But I mean, that's just one of the many issues that the club's got, and deciding which players go and for how much and all that kind of thing. That's a main pod discussion. But I mean, obviously it does come into today's game, because if some of those players aren't there, then maybe we've got different players in the team. But as Dom said earlier, even if we had different players, would it have really made a difference today? There's an argument for and against it, but I do still think it is down to the coaching more than anything else. But I agree, if you put out players, if you see the team sheet, like you say, Danny, and the Ox is starting, all the players talk in the dressing room, they're going to know that he's turned down a contract offer from Arsenal, a big contract offer as well, and that he wants to go and he's likely going to leave. They'll look at that and they'll be confused. They'll wonder what's going on with Mustafi, because they'll all have read the stories about him agreeing terms with Inter Milan. I'm sure they'll all be going, why are we getting rid of Mustafi? He's a good defender. It doesn't make any sense. Whether he does go or not, I don't know. But that kind of atmosphere doesn't help you as a player on the pitch. I know Jeff said on the podcast this week when you were on with Raj, Danny, and he said, when you're out on the pitch, it doesn't affect you. I love Jeff. I think he's great, but I couldn't disagree with him more, because it doesn't matter what you do in life, any job, whatever it is, even if you're just driving your car, if something's on your mind, it affects everything you do, and you won't perform to the same level if there's something troubling you or you're concerned about something. So all of those things do not help. You saw it last season when Arsene didn't, wasn't coming out and saying whether he was renewing his contract or not. That definitely didn't help the club at all. And he came out and said as much, didn't he, in the summer? Said that it had a really bad effect on the players. Imagine being a player at the club and going, oh, the manager doesn't even know if he wants to stay and be here anymore. Well, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my future?
And he was moaning, wasn't he? I mean, Wenger moans that the players aren't signing deals, but he left it for the day after the cup final. What's that?
All those things are going to be, negative effects on the players on the pitch.
And he got a pay rise. He's now on 10 million a year, which is about £153,000 a week, more than any player.
No, well, that's a his wages are another discussion as
A
well.
whole new podcast. That bloke I was talking about, who wrote that book, his name is James Montague. His book's on Amazon at the moment. It's called The Billionaires Club. And I just checked the podcast tweets. He said, yeah, he'd love to come on and talk about his book. So, yeah, it looks like we're going to get him on, and that'd be a really interesting podcast.
Well, we'll start taking some questions in the chat box, Danny, if you want to start grabbing them.
Yep.
Just before we do, Dom, I'll give you a chance to, if there is any possible praise for any Arsenal player today. Did you think, play particularly well? Or
I actually thought Petr Cech saved us a couple of times from being further embarrassed. And I will, the near post thing's always been a bit of an issue, but the goalkeeper will only look as good as the defense in front of him helps him look. I'm always a big believer in that. If you're going to let players run at you constantly all game, you're going to concede goals. I don't care if you're Manuel Neuer, you're going to concede goals. So maybe Petr Cech, I think, could probably walk off thinking he didn't play too badly. He wasn't amazing, but he was okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, honestly, I think from head to toe, the team was a shambles. And like you said earlier, I think at the moment, the manager will talk about team solidarity and use these terms, after the Leicester game, and that those performances are very few and far between for me. When what I want to see is players playing for each other. If Ramsey does make a run forward, that Ozil or someone tucks in behind to let him do so, or if someone gets caught out of position, someone covers, and that's what you see the other teams that are successful doing, is that everyone's playing for each other. Whereas all I'm seeing is a team that's willing to just let each other hang out to dry, which is what I'm saying earlier when the first goal was a chain reaction of mistake after mistake. You can understand one mistake being made, but not 3 in a row, 4 in a row. That will lead to a goal. And that's the biggest concern to me, is that this team doesn't play for each other. That it's almost like, I won't say that they're like hiding, but I'm saying they're hiding. Like, as long as they can look back and go, oh, well, it wasn't my fault. The centre-backs were too far apart. That's why Firmino got in and got the easy header there. So it's the centre-back's fault. Yeah, okay, but there were 4 mistakes leading to that mistake.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's like the Stoke game. Xhaka, stupid pass, makes the wrong decision, but he's still got to travel 50, 60 yards with the ball to score a goal. So there's plenty of other mistakes on the way. Yeah, it's definitely a collective thing at the moment. Right, we've got loads of questions coming in. Thank you very much. Keeping Danny busy. He's copying and pasting away. So first one from Arian HQ. Who would you take from Syria? John. John. Oh, was that to me?
Yeah.
Do you mean player or manager?
Player.
Player. I don't know. I mean, again, as Dom said earlier, I'm of the opinion that I'm not sure that new players would necessarily make a huge difference. But if you're talking about who I'd like to sign if the team was doing better, Amadou Diawara from Napoli would be a good midfielder.
Dybala.
You'd like him, Dom. He's very aggressive and box to
I want
box.
Nainggolan because he's got a cool haircut and he's just nasty and he just gets shit done.
That as well, that would be amazing. As for a centre back, because that's apparently a position we might be looking at. I don't know. There's a few, but again, you could just go to Napoli and get Diawara for midfield and Koulibaly at centre back. They're both big, strong, physical players.
See, the problem is that they play in teams that defend.
That is true. Napoli do have a very distinctive style of playing. Do you remember how when we used to be really entertaining to watch and people called it Wenger ball? That's how Napoli play. Yeah. But they defend as well. It's very confusing. Anyway, next question. Ashley Gray. Why would the players fight for a manager who sits on his Arsenal game? Dom.
I think the players do like Arsene, but I don't think.
I like pizza, but it's no bloody good for me.
I think it's kind of clear that from last season how many players came out and said that they want the manager to stay, and you could tell at Real Madrid when Mourinho was there that the players weren't happy with the manager with the stories coming out, and you could tell at Chelsea with the season they were having before Mourinho left.
Yeah.
But I also think that the players don't know any different either. A lot of them. Although in saying that, a lot of them have come from other teams. I don't know. He does take bullets for them a lot and defends them in the media, whereas Mourinho will throw his players under the bus, no problem, and make examples of them. I don't think it's the sitting on the sideline not saying anything that is the issue. I think it's what happens between games. So much happens between the 90 minutes that's wrong. That's clearly wrong, that there are clearly issues with. I don't think it's the 90 minutes of him sitting down that is as big a issue as what it looks like, because that's, as fans, that's all we see. We only see that 90 minutes, but all the hours that go into training and hopefully watching video footage and talking to players and coaching during the week, that's clearly something's not quite right there.
Yeah, I agree. One from Adam Polvordi. I've got no idea. I'm going to Danny all these names. Would Seri and Draxler really improve our team? Also, would they actually want to come? That's probably one more for Chris than anyone else. So you can go and bug him on Twitter. He's probably in hiding. Probably turned his Twitter off for a week now, as I still have lost. I've seen a little bit of Seri. He looks a very good player, very neat and tidy. He's very small, but his composure on the ball and the way he moves around the pitch looks good. As for Draxler, look, I think he's a great player. I don't know what that changes. I don't think going forward is necessarily a problem. Like today, I know we didn't have a shot on target, but that I think is more down to the fact that we just didn't have the ball. We couldn't win it back, and our midfield couldn't get a hold of it to give it to players like Ozil, and we had Welbeck up front rather than Lacazette, who, despite only being at the club at a short time, I think has done really well. Would they want to come? I don't know. I think Seri wants to leave Nice. He was going to go to Barca, but that deal looks like it's fallen through. Would he come to Arsenal? I guess French players do like playing for Arsenal. Draxler, I've got no idea. If PSG have agreed in principle the deal for Mbappe, I think I read today, it's like 140 or 150 million, but because of FFP, they'll probably have to shift some players out. So whether it's him or, I don't know, Di Maria or someone else, I'm really not sure. But Draxler likes Ozil. They get on really well, so maybe he could help convince him. Next one. Oh, fuck off, Danny. Obi as a Buki George. I've probably been really horrible with your name there. Apologise. Why aren't we Arsenal fans doing more to force Wenger out of the club? Aren't we tired of all these years of mediocrity? Danny.
I was busy shouting at Sean that her mum's here. What question was that? Which one are we down to?
That was the
Arshwin one.
Why aren't we Arsenal fans doing more to force Wenger out of the club? That was from Obi.
Because I think over the last few years, when people have been doing it, they have got nothing but hatred. You look at some of the organisations that have been doing it, like BSM tried to do it, and there's been quite a few others, and they get nothing but hatred and nothing but grief, because some of them doing it for their own personal gain. Some people do it because they really want the people out of the club. Look at Mark King. That bloke is reviled. I think that's the right word, on Twitter with all the stuff that he's tried to do. And I know Mark King, and he's a decent bloke. A lot of people hate him, but he's just angry because of this is the way the club is going. And he's been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, and he's been saying it. And so many people have been saying it. And it's just last season it got to a head, and then we went on that magnificent run of apart from losing to Spurs, we won almost every single game leading up to the cup final. And then when you go and win the cup final the way we did, and make no mistake about it, that was one of the finest games Arsene Wenger has ever managed in his life, in a cup final when the pressure is on against the best team in the country, about to do the double, and we beat them. And that has bought him a hell of a lot of time from people, even bought him some time from me. But if the gist of it is, if you try and do it, the club will clamp down on you, other fans will have a go at you, and then they'll be fighting on the concourses again. So you can't win. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah, no, I think also saying it's not just the Arsene Wenger that's the problem at the club. There's serious issues on the board as well. Don't get me wrong, I think the manager needs to change.
The owner's a big one, where the owner's basically saying, Arsene's there until I say so, or I don't know any of the inside stuff, but it did sound like, even Gazidis was probably trying to get things to change and didn't know how to, whatever happened, because at the end of the day, Stan Kroenke says, no, Arsene's staying. That's what's happening. So if he wants to stay, that's what's going to happen.
Next one from Thomas Smith. Would you revert to the old revert back to the old 4 at the back formation, Dom?
Don't think it matters, honestly. I don't think formation matters. I don't think personnel matters until, like I said, there is just so. If you're a pundit analysing Chelsea or analysing Spurs or analysing Liverpool, even, it's very easy to do that, because it's very easy to show periods of the game and the formation that they're in and how they get back to defend or how they move to go forward or whatever it is that they're doing, because it'll be consistent. You'll see consistencies in their play. We don't have any of that. And I said this last year as well, and I hate that I'm saying it again this year. I don't know what we're trying to do. And granted, I'm not the most knowledgeable football fan in the world. I get that. But even pundits don't seem to really be able to understand. Gary Neville, for all of his, Manchester United wankness, he is a smart man when it comes to analysing football. And he was at a loss today. He's like, I don't know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you're consistently trying to do something and it's not working, then okay, fair enough. But even then, there is absolutely no consistency to what we're actually doing on the football field from week in to week out. And that's the biggest issue, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I do think if we go to a back 4, it will make us a little bit more solid, just because I think it's the players know it better. But you're still going to see the same issues. You're still going to see gaps in midfield, and the centre backs are easy to get at. You look at the Danny you were talking about on the pod this week. Sam Allardyce saying how easy the centre backs are to get at from the Palace game last year. So, you're still going to get the same issues, but I do think it would make us a little bit better. And if Mustafi goes, then maybe we will end up with a back 4, because we won't have enough centre backs to play the back 3.
And the pair of you? What's your first choice centre backs, or in order the 5 that we have? What would be like, Dom? What do you think?
Are we playing 2 or 3?
Playing 3 at the back.
I'd say Koscielny, Mustafi, and one of Holding or Mertesacker.
Yeah. John? I'd have Mertesacker in the middle.
Yeah, mine would be the same. I would probably lean a little bit closer towards Per than Holding, but that's, again, just down to age and experience. I don't think there's anything wrong with Rob Holding. I know he had a really bad game today, but I thought that was more down, he's just a young player and he really got hung out to dry today in a just awful system for him, and it's just not going to work out in those sort of games.
Because with Per's reading of the game, you have Per in the middle. He doesn't need to rely on pace or anything like that because he's a big lump. He can tackle and he can read the game. Koscielny left, Mustafi right, and then all three of them together are a bit fantastic. And I bet we don't see that all season.
Next question, one from Stan the Man. Should we fail to qualify for Champions League for a second straight season, how bad do you think that will damage us as a club and a brand? I don't think it will damage us as a brand because commercially we are pretty poor, to be honest. Some people defend Ivan Gazidis for some of the things he does, and I think he's done some good things for the club. But that is one thing he has failed at, is bringing enough commercial revenue into the club. Obviously, if you're in the Champions League, it's much easier to get some of the big deals. But at any point Steve's on this season, when he's on, feel free to ask him about that, because he'll talk to you about smaller deals that are a couple of £1 million here and there. Those kind of things we just aren't doing at the moment. As a club, it could be damaging. I don't think it's actually going to matter as much in the Premier League as it will in other European leagues. Oh, hello, Sean. Because of the money that is in the Premier League and the wages that Premier League clubs can pay, then she's terrible, isn't she? She's still covered in glitter from V.
It's Nando's.
It's kind of Nando's. Oh, that's her mother's arm.
Yeah. So I think because of the money that you can pay players now in the Premier League, then you'll see that some players will go, actually, I don't mind going to a non-Champions League club because they're gonna subsidise that in terms of wages. But obviously, no, it's not good. That's where you want to be. Although I'm not a fan of the Champions League, I think it's a pile of shit. But there you go. Ashwin Paramswar. Oh God, another name I've done horrible. Will we see Arsenal fans boycotting games and do things that stop funds pumping into the club? Is this Judgment Day for the club, Danny?
Yeah, you can leave it all open. Yes. I don't know. Let's say. Will they boycott the games? They are boycotting the games. Quite a few people that we know that have now gone from they've lent out. I think one of the people that Mr. Holick knows, some of the people around him have said them they're not going this season, but they're keeping their season tickets. And he said there's a few people around him like that. You've got people like FK that have seen the light that are not overly happy with Wenger. Jeff, he is not overly happy with him. I mean, Mr. Holick has been a supporter of Wenger, every single thing Wenger does since day one, and even now he's starting to waver. He says he hates it. He says I hate the fact that I do, but there are going to be more people doing that, and there are going to be more people that are going to be getting fed up. We all know about net spend, and you spend, we spend, and then you get caught in the shop with your kids net spending. So, but I might be going to my first game in September to meet little Dom there. I don't know if you're coming along, John.
I'm cancelling my trip. F that. I'm not.
Dom's skipping England and going straight to Amsterdam. He's going to spend the whole time there.
Yeah. So there are people that are doing it. I mean, I've not been to a game since the last game of 07-08. So I mean, I've not really missed going. I've had the opportunity to go to no end of games. I could have had my 2 season tickets back at any point and then gone to the games. Partly it's because I've got none of my friends are reliable. They're all loved up and married with kids now. None of them can go to football because they don't have written permission from their missus or falling out with them. But I wouldn't go now. Like Dom was saying, I'm not going on the 9th of September because it's Bournemouth. I'm going because all my friends that I've met through the podcast, podcast friends, because all you lot are going to be there. I don't really care. I might not even be seeing the game if the wheelchair people at Arsenal can't sort their fucking lives out and reply to a simple email after a week. So I might not even see the game. But it's a lot of people are getting fed up and a lot of people are disgruntled, and we are slowly dropping down and down and down from finishing the top 4 to finish outside the top 4, then not qualifying at the same time for the Champions League, and then if we have a disastrous group stage in the UEFA Cup, like I think is perfectly possible because we've got some half decent teams we've got to play against. We've got Alexander Hleb's old team. I think it could just get worse because if some of these players, like we've seen today from the Ox doesn't want to be there, the Ox isn't going to play. And then this apathy is spreading through the players, through the staff, it's going to spread through the fans, and it's just going to be another shit show. And the owner is doing nothing about it apart from killing animals and putting it on the internet.
Yeah, I think the issue is that there's lots of very rich people around that area who have season tickets who don't always turn up to games, but Kroenke doesn't care because the tickets are paid for, so he's already got the money. So until that stops coming in, I don't think it's really going to affect the club in that sense. You're not going to see a drastic response or change in response to people not going. One from 73259. Oh, there you go, talking about the Ox. Well, not him just in specific, but why are we playing players who want to go? What is the point? Are we happy with that? The inept management that got us in this position. Dom.
No, I was just thinking as Danny was talking there about, the tickets and finance and Champions League and whatnot. And again, Fife and Steve are the experts on this, but it sounds like the owner wants money in the bank to be able to leverage against to use for other things, because he has a lot of sports teams and things that he's doing in the States. The St. Louis Rams in the NFL moved to LA recently, and he needed some money to finance that. And he made a huge, big shopping mall right next to the stadium as well. And, people that know things that I definitely don't say that, to be cash rich at Arsenal to leverage against is a very smart thing to do. But in saying that, that doesn't excuse the manager from picking stupid teams that make no sense. One day it may well come out that the manager says, I was under financial restrictions that you guys just weren't aware of. Maybe we can't buy any new players other than Lacazette and the snatch on a free. Who knows? But that doesn't excuse not playing him. It doesn't excuse not playing your two bigger signings of the summer and playing Oxlade-Chamberlain, who, like you said, doesn't really want to be there, and is causing issues. All the fans want is to make a statement, put him on the bench. Don't pick him in the squad at all. I would rather see Ashley Maitland-Niles or somebody like that on the bench with a possibility of getting a game, because that he's going to try. That at least he's going to be trying his absolute hardest to impress. And is Oxlade-Chamberlain going to give you the same thing? No. And like you said, I completely agree. If I'm out there playing and I look at somebody across from me that isn't 100% committed to the team, that's going to affect me playing big time.
Yeah.
So whether it be Alexis, whether it be Ox, whoever it is, that is going to affect the other players around him. And you are better off playing somebody maybe a little less talented that is absolutely desperate to be there. And that, I think, for me, definitely is something that I'm scratching my head over with the manager, just asking, I'm completely confused as to why you would play Oxlade-Chamberlain at the moment. He's not Thierry Henry, is he? For example, he's not Patrick Vieira.
You get and understand playing Alexis Sanchez because of the quality of the player.
Exactly. You can give the manager a pass playing Alexis if he's going to stand firm on keeping him and not selling him. But to let Theo Walcott hold the club to ransom like he did, to let Oxlade-Chamberlain do the same thing, what I think it does is it sets a precedent for every other player going forward to treat the club like these players are treating the club. And that's the thing, I guess. I think it's really disappointing that we've given Oxlade-Chamberlain every possibility to succeed and become a fantastic player. He has a few good games at the end of last season, gets a sniff of a big contract, and he wants out. You go for it.
Yeah, that's fair. Just a couple more questions then before we wrap up, because we are still trying to stick to the 1 hour shows for the season. One from Will Nicol. Why do you think Arsenal are not looking at a holding player to complement Xhaka? It's clear to me he's getting overrun by himself and could do with a hand. Well, I don't think they're not looking. I think they are. I think there was serious interest in Seri, and I think that was dropped the moment Barcelona came in because we just knew we didn't have a chance. Now that Barca have cocked the deal up because they tried to lowball Nice, maybe there's a chance we go in and try and get him again now. I really don't know. There were reports we were looking at. Who's the guy from Seville who used to be at
Cheriak?
No. I think he was one.
Nzonzi.
Yeah, he was the other guy they were looking at. Again, I don't know how far along it was. Was it they're just scouting him, or they're actually talking to his agent, or whatever? So I think they were definitely looking at players. But I think that the noises that have all been coming out of the club is you can't get certain players until other ones have left. So it's basically the club's fault for not being able to shift players on where they should have got it done sooner. But there we go. So maybe we get someone in before the end of the window. I'm not confident. One from my friend Mr. Funkadino. Do you think we might experiment with having a midfield in the next game? Seems to work for most teams, having players in the middle of the park. Danny, what do you reckon?
Oh, Dino, you're a mental case. How do you come up with these ideas? So I'm going to scratch. Well, yeah, we need. I don't think other teams are. They're getting the three at the back formation and they're adapting it, whereas we're adapting it by playing players out of position in that formation, which is not really what we need to do. I think I would like to see. I sometimes think that having two players behind the striker is a bit of a waste of a player because they tend to get in each other's way. We saw that a few times today. So maybe I'd like to see three in the middle, and so it'd be like 3-3-1. I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? It's going to be three centre backs, two wide, three in the middle, one there and one up there. That's probably 14 players. But you know what I mean. I don't want to see two.
Yeah, no,
behind the striker.
that's the right number.
Oh, good. That makes a change. I mean, once I did that and I picked 14 players in my starting 11. Yeah. So then we're going to have, I think I'd like one in central midfield that is going to get the ball back and do the tackling, one that is going to pass the ball around, and one that is going to possibly go forward and do the attacking, which could be Ramsey or the Ox, but we're never going to see it, are we? So no, I don't think we're going to bother with a midfield.
No.
Just stick some more left backs at centre back. That's what we want.
Have 5 left-footed players on the pitch.
That's it.
And play none of them at left back.
Yeah.
Statement from True Gruner. I don't even know what question to ask you lot. This season has been on repeat for years. It's crazy to pretend like others don't see it as well. Yeah, this is pretty spot on. I'm honestly, I'm not saying turn off. Like keep watching, but I do wonder sometimes why you lot watch us. We must have the same thing in fucking game at the moment.
Someone else made a really good statement in case you don't get down to it. Ariane H said, Robbie from AFTV is probably going to be financially stable enough to purchase the club after tonight.
I did see actually.
That's genius.
Sam Matterface, the commentator who works for ITV and TalkSport and a few others, he actually put a tweet out that said Robbie from AFTV is probably ordering himself a new Jag right now when it was like 3-0 or something. Yeah,
so they're not wrong. He's got the market cornered. Maybe he's the manager.
We got another one here from Matt Tibbetts. How do we reconcile that performance with the cup final one, where we showed so much cohesion and desire? It was only 3 months ago. Dom.
That's the question.
That is the question. And that is the exact thing that we haven't had either of the 3 games we've played so far this season. Personnel keeps changing, but that shouldn't matter. That's my biggest argument is that, people say, oh, well, the defense kept changing and players are the team isn't settled right now. There should be a very strict system in place that you can swap and change whoever and play a similar brand of football. Look, Ozil's vision and passing is better than Iwobi's, for example. But regardless of who you're playing, either of those 2 players, you would expect them to take up the same positions, defending and attacking. You expect them to do whatever it takes. And, like I said, if Coquelin comes on for Ramsey, you want him to be in the same position and do the same role. What I don't expect is that I know the chat box is full of Ox was terrible, Bellerin was terrible, everyone was terrible. But the thing is, I've seen in that FA Cup final, every single one of those players play well. And it was because there was cohesion and they all played for each other. Not one of them left anybody out to dry. And all I've seen so far this season is players constantly leaving their teammates out to dry. Rob Holding copped it today. The manager sticks Bellerin out on the left and doesn't get any help out there. The only one that I'm looking at right now and scratching my head over is the Ox. I thought his performance wasn't just terrible. It was just, he didn't want to be out there. There was no zip. There was no desire. Ramsey's positioning was horrible, but he tries hard. It's the same with Coquelin. Coquelin positioning and skill set is only what it is, but he actually has the effort out there. And when everyone's playing for each other, all of those players are good footballers. Make no mistake about that. We won an FA Cup against the champions last season and outplayed them. It is possible. But every single one of those players just left each other out to dry. And I don't understand why. I know, everybody wants answers. I want answers. All the chat box want answers. I wish we had some. But I can already this is why I think everyone is so frustrated, is because we already know the script for this season, and yet again we're going into another season where it's very difficult to be excited for anything, because we know that we're going to put together a run at some stage. We're going to have 10 to 15 games unbeaten. We're going to win a few games and look good for a little while. We're going to get an injury or two somewhere, which is going to completely derail what goes on, and we're going to be pushing for fourth spot come the end of the season. That's what's going to happen. At least if you're a Man United supporter, a Chelsea supporter, or a Man City supporter, you don't really know what's going to happen. You know, you've got that optimistic kind of outlook on the season because you genuinely believe that you could push for the title.
Yeah.
And yet again, we're sitting here feeling the exact same way that we felt for the last 9 seasons, where for 9 seasons we haven't even been able to win the first 2 games in a row and be a settled team going into a season to have the optimism. Which is it's exactly why everyone's so flat right now.
Oh dear. Yeah, pretty much spot on. We've got last 2 questions, and then we are going to wrap this up. Gaming for life. Oh, this is fun, man. Who should we sign, and whom do you think we will sign in reality? Go on, we can all have a go on this. Danny?
We are going to just, someone's just used the C word at Wenger. We're not having that, even if we don't agree with him. Who are we going to sign? I don't think we're really going to sign anybody. I think it's going to get down to the last minute. We're going to ship out a few players on loan because we can't agree the transfer fee and their wages. And then by the time, you know, a little bit like when it was all wrapped us to get, was it Demba Ba from Chelsea? And it all went through. And then at the last minute, Mourinho went, not really. And we were like, oh, fuck, now what are we going to do? It's just going to be that all summer. And it's just going to be more shit, and it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be a little bit like EastEnders. But people, this is what we get for being the best team in Premier League history in 2004. We're paying the price now. It's our own bloody fault.
Dom, do you think we'll sign anyone, and who do you think we should sign?
I mean, some of the chat box thinking that there's going to be panic buys come in. I honestly don't think we can even do that because, like I said earlier, I don't want to go over it again, but the wages being an issue with not being able to shift players. I think the club thought that they would have Debuchy, Gibbs, Perez, Jenkinson, maybe Theo. He got told that he was free to leave. You know, a lot of those sort of deadwood / players that they thought would have out the team. So we'd be able to have the wages to bring in somebody decent. It's the reason I think Mustafi and Ox are up for sale is because we can't shift them, and to bring anybody in, I think it's going to be. I mean, we can't even get rid of some players. How are we going to sign anyone with what is it 4 days to go? I would say Seri or no one.
Fair enough. I mean, I'd be very happy to see Seri come in. He's a very good player.
Chris was saying that Seri will play in the middle with Xhaka.
Seri and Zonzi, one of the two. Keep Mustafi. I don't understand why you'd sell him, and potentially bringing in a Draxler Lamar type player. And in an ideal world, it's really easy. You know, you get rid of Theo, you get rid of Ox, you get rid of, you know, some of these other players that don't want to be there, and you bring those guys in. But there's a reason that we haven't been able to.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, Spurs are playing at Wembley every week and they still can't get a win. 10 now.
Oh, cheering a Burnley goal. It's gone low. As for me on that, I mean, I don't know. Like, if we got Seri, yeah, that's great. I'll take Chris's word for it. I mean, I haven't seen enough to know that much about him, but what I've seen, little clips and stuff, you know, he looks very good. I would have been happy with Nzonzi. Would have been fine. Are we going to get anyone in reality? I guess Seri's probably the most likely because, you know, according to some journalists, we were in talks for him previously. So as the Barca deal fell through, maybe that's the easiest one to pick up again. But yeah, I think it massively depends on shipping players out. But yeah, I do imagine some will be going. Last question is from, oh God, I can't say that name. What is that? That's an Irish name, isn't it, Danny? Is that Ewan?
What? Oh yeah, probably Ewan.
Yeah, Ewan Hassett. So apologies if that's completely wrong.
Well, it's his own fault for having a badly spelt name.
Anyway, Mr. Hassett asks, why was Kolasinac, who got in the team of the year in the Bundesliga as a left back, sit out on the bench, whereas our current left back keep getting exposed over and over again? I have no idea. I think since he's come in, he's made 2 errors, maybe 3. He has a little bit of a suspect pass in him, but I don't blame him because he's been played at centre back. He's not been played in his position. He played left wing back for the Charity Shield, didn't he? Was that game he played there, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did play there.
In that position, he was fine. And I just honestly today was ignoring the not starting Lacazette thing and the general performance of the team. There was easy things you could have done as just play Kolasinac at left wing back and Bellerin right wing back and not start the Ox, stuff like that. So I don't know. I can only assume it's Arsene putting the Ox in the team to try and say to him, look, this is how much I want you to stay. And, trying to shoehorn him in somehow. And if he really has turned down 180 grand a week, then you've
never going to get that offer again.
Yeah, I mean, if he's really turned that down, I don't know whether that's true or not. That's just what's been reported. But if he's turned that down, then he clearly doesn't want to stay at the club anymore. And I'm not going to dig the Ox out for it because it's his career and it's up to him what he does. If he wants to move on and he feels that he's not going to develop as a player at Arsenal and he wants to go somewhere else, then that's fine. I saw lots of people giving him a lot of abuse for apparently turning the contract down. I don't get that. If he was saying, I'm not going to stay unless you give me 250 grand a week, then I can understand it a bit. But he's not doing a Van Persie or a Fabregas or anything. So I think people should maybe get off his back a little. So, yeah, I can only guess that it's Wenger really just trying to make a statement to him saying, look, this is how much I want you at the club. But it clearly backfired today. But yeah, I think that's about it for today. Thank you for everyone for watching. We had loads of people watching today. I think that might have been our best ever live numbers, Danny.
Well, it's in the top 10. We've had, I think once we had about 900, but that's that time that me and Chris and you would have naked belly dancing for late. Oh no, yeah, that was a private show, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a private. You had to pay for that one. Yeah, that was through Chatterbait, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, who is on the pod next week? Do we know, Danny? Is it
organised? Me and Gimli, and it's going to be Mr. Davis, not Davies, apparently. I don't know why he puts an I there. It's his own bloody fault. And I think Lord Hillwood is joining us. And I think I think Chris might actually be making his return if he can wangle. He's actually working tonight, the dirty little pirate. Apparently there's been a ship run aground and he's knee-high in rum at the moment, stealing as much as he can. So Chris said he might be able to join us. And then we have the transfer deadline day stuff on Thursday, which is going to be, bring your tissues, people, because it's going to be a snot fest. We're going to have shows at 2 p.m, 4, 6 and 8, and then another one at 10 where the rest of ABW just sit around going, I need a hug. It's just going to be that. So I think it's going to be me and Gimli on every single one of those shows every 2 hours, and we're going to have 3, 4, 5 people on each one. I think we're going to try and have one from ABW on each one of those shows, because you lot all have jobs and lives and families now, not like the old days where there'd be loads of you sitting around doing nothing. It's disgraceful. And so it's going to be a busy week. So hopefully we'll have some nice weather so that people can be seen outside the Emirates waving big pink dildos in people's faces. Well, they don't do that anymore, do they? Have they banned it?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I was about to say they didn't ban dildos. No, I think they stopped. The Sky journalists stopped going to the grounds and stuff, didn't they?
That's the best bit.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. I always liked it when it went to Stoke and you'd see the orcs. It was like what's that Labyrinth with David Bowie, when a wall breaks in the bedroom and all the like trash goblins come through. That's what they all look like. It's fantastic.
And you never know, say Berrino might be turning up at Arsenal and just sitting outside in his car just on the off chance.
Maybe so. But yeah, all is left for me to say is thank you, Danny, for coming on. Very kind of you.
Yep. Cheers, Muchley, for hosting. Save me the bother, because I'd have just talked about what I had for breakfast.
That's quite all right. Someone was asking me that on Twitter, actually. So it's like, I'm bored of listening to you reading about your tweets about football. So telling them about my cornflakes, but then Arsenal pissed on them. Thank you, Dom, for coming on. Very kind.
Is that all we get? Just a nod?
Yeah, he just gets a nod. Yeah. You've got to pay him more, haven't we?
Hang on. There he is, because he's not saying anything, so the camera's not going to. Look at that, ladies. He'll be in the UK soon.
It's £50 for a hug. If you're a woman, it's free if you're a man.
Yeah,
it's just one of his rules.
My mum is saving up at the moment. She's got a paper round. She's gonna be all over him like stink on a skunk. Hey, Dom.
I saw a skunk the other day. I told you that story, didn't I?
Skunks.
Oh yeah,
Skunk.
that's what Dom does now. Yeah, we don't talk about football. He sends me pictures of like different animals that he finds in the bushes in the wild in Canada. It's
Oh,
great.
did you see that mountain squirrel from the last
Oh
weekend?
yeah,
You saw that on Facebook?
it's unreal.
No.
Amazing.
Does it trump a honey badger though?
Apparently, it's called a marmot, but I just rediscovered the species and called it a mountain squirrel. Hilarious. They make these weird little whistle noises.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so if you are a lady in London when Dom's about and you're trying to attract him, if you bring a small furry animal,
If
he
you
does
stink,
like those.
Skunks don't always stink.
they fucking do. Dirty bastards.
Oh,
swore
anyway,
twice then. Sorry.
there's enough of this waffle.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to check out this week's podcast, obviously, and next week's. Tune in for Transfer Deadline Day because that will be hilarious, of course. If you give us a thumbs up and a subscribe, that'd be really nice. We really appreciate it.
Or
If you want
don't.
to give us a thumbs down, that's perfectly fine as well. Because let's be honest, we did just lose 4-0 to Liverpool.
Thumbs down for Wenger.
Thumbs up for. Oh,
None of them. None of them deserved
yeah,
it.
none of them.
Thumbs up to get rid of Wenger.
The more thumbs down we get, the more chance we've got of Wenger getting out. And unsubscribe while you're at it. Do yourself a favour.
Anyway, press the button, Danny. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.